Welcome to this deep dive. We take fascinating sources and really explore them for you.
Yeah, get right into the details.
Exactly. So today we're looking at a list, a collection actually, of 20 baby names. And they all share this really profound meaning.
Hope.
Hope. That's a powerful theme.
It really is. We've got their origins, boy or girl, and their popularity stats from the Social Security Administration for 2023.
The SSA data?
But our mission, so to speak, isn't just like reading a list.
No, definitely not.
We want to uncover the stories, right? The cultural meaning behind names that capture this universal feeling.
Exactly. It's more than just the meaning of the word. It's about how different cultures, different languages express this fundamental human desire for hope. It kind of gives us a window into what societies value, what they hope for in the future.
Okay, so let's kick things off. The most straightforward one on the list, hope, the name itself.
Can't get clearer than that. Right. And what I found interesting, it was still in the top 500 for girls last year, 2023. Yeah. Even being so direct. What do you think about that?
Well, that's a really good point. Maybe, in our world, which feels increasingly complex, maybe there's this underlying desire for something simple, something direct, especially for our core values.
Yeah, like an anchor.
Exactly, an anchor. So the appeal of hope, the name, might just tap into that need to ground ourselves and our kids in something just fundamentally positive, universally understood.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, so moving from the really direct example, the list gets incredibly diverse. It shows how hope pops up everywhere in different languages.
It really does.
Let's take Nadine. It's French, and it also means hope, which I think might surprise some people.
Yeah, maybe not the first one you'd think of.
And popularity-wise, it's outside the top 1,000. So why do you reckon a name with such a lovely meaning isn't, more common?
That's a great question. I mean, the meaning is beautiful, absolutely. But the sound, the style of a name, that plays a huge role in trends.
Right. Nadine has a certain, maybe a classic feel. And right now, trends often lean towards either very modern sounds or maybe specific vintage revivals.
Okay.
So it could just be that while everyone loves the idea of hope, the actual sound of Nadine isn't quite hitting the mark for current tastes.
Interesting thought. Then we got Esperanza, Spanish, obviously, for hope. And that one is in the top 1,000. So what's the difference there, do you think?
Well, Esperanza's higher ranking probably reflects the significant and growing influence of Latinx culture and language in the U.S.
Ah, okay.
Names with Spanish origins often have that strong cultural tie, right?
Yeah.
And familiarity for a really large part of the population. That definitely boosts their popularity.
Absolutely, that makes sense. Okay, next, Asha. This one takes us to Sanskrit.
Beautiful name.
It is. It means hope, but it also has the second meaning, life. I just love how those two concepts are linked.
Yeah, hope and life intertwined. And Asha is also in the top 1,000.
Yeah.
So it seems to have this cross-cultural appeal. What do you think makes Asha work so well for different people?
I think a few things could be going on there. Its sound is relatively simple, quite elegant, easy to say in lots of languages.
True.
Plus, that powerful combo, hope and life, gives it this really deep, positive feeling that just works regardless of your background,
Yeah, totally. Okay, moving along. Imani. This one's Swahili. It means faith or belief. And the notes say it's often associated with hope, which feels right, doesn't it? Faith seems like a foundation for hope.
Absolutely. They often go hand in hand.
And Imani is pretty popular, top 500. Does its popularity maybe hint at a wider trend, like people wanting names with strong, positive, maybe spiritual meanings?
I think that's a really sharp observation, yeah. The popularity of Imani does seem to fit with the trend we see towards choosing names that carry significant positive weight, whether spiritual or ethical. And that connection, faith and hope, it's so deep in many cultures. Choosing a name like Imani can be a powerful way to express those values.
Okay, let's talk Hebrew. We have tikva, direct translation, hope.
Straight up hope.
But it's outside the top 1,000. It's interesting, some of these very direct translations, especially from languages maybe less widely spoken in the U.S., they aren't always the most popular. Is there something about maybe a more direct translation that doesn't click as much for some parents?
It could be, yeah. Direct translations from languages that aren't as familiar might lack that broader cultural recognition, or maybe just the ease of pronunciation for a wider audience.
Okay.
Tikva has a beautiful meaning, no question, but its Hebrew roots might make it feel less immediately accessible, maybe less familiar if you're outside that specific cultural context.
We also see that with Elpida, which is Greek for hope. also outside the top 1,000. Seems like a similar pattern to Tikva.
Yes, exactly. And again, Elpida, rich history, powerful meaning. But its Greek origin might just limit how widely it gets picked up in a naming landscape that's still largely English-speaking and, influenced by Western trends.
Now, here's one that caught my eye. Hiwa. It's a Kurdish name meaning hope.
Okay.
And it's listed as unisex,
Mm-hmm.
also outside the top 1,000. But it's great to see a unisex option right there with this powerful meaning. Does being unisex affect a name's popularity, do you think?
Oh, that's interesting, the unisex factor.
Yeah.
It can cut both ways, really.
How so?
Well, some parents actively seek out unisex names. They like the flexibility, the inclusiveness, but others might still prefer names that have more traditional gender associations.
Right.
So in Hiwa's case, maybe its Kurdish origin combined with being unisex contributes to it not ranking higher in the U.S. context specifically.
Gotcha. Okay, continuing our world tour, Arabic names. We have Rajwa for girls, meaning hope or wish, and Amil for boys, meaning hopeful. Slight difference there. Yeah, both outside the top 1,000. That little nuance between hope and hopeful is quite interesting. Does that subtlety play a role in how people perceive them?
That's a subtle point, but yeah, I think it can. Rajwa, hope or wish, feels more like an aspiration, right? A desire looking forward.
Okay.
Whereas Emil, hopeful, emphasizes more of an internal state, like optimism. These nuances might influence a choice, depending on exactly what feeling a parent wants to capture.
And the fact they're outside the top 1,000.
Likely reflects their more specific cultural roots, maybe less widespread familiarity outside Arabic-speaking communities.
Okay, back to Sanskrit for a moment. Tamana, another girl's name, meaning hope, but also desire. Also outside the top 1,000.
Hope and desire.
It's like hope, but with a bit of yearning mixed in. That feels very human, doesn't it?
Absolutely. That link between hope and desire, it acknowledges that we actively, envision and strive for something better. Tamana captures that blend really nicely, the anticipation, the longing that often comes with hope. And its position outside the top 1,000 probably just comes down to it being less common in Western cultures.
Right. Now let's revisit unisex options.
Yeah.
Besides Hiwa, we have Jesse. Hebrew origin means gift.
A classic.
It is, but it's sometimes interpreted as hope. And this one is very popular, top 250. The indirect link is really fascinating. Why do you think gift often gets connected to hope?
Well, I think that interpretation often comes from just the profound joy and optimism a child brings, right? A new life is seen as a gift. And that gift inherently represents hope for the future, for growth, love, all of that. Plus, Jesse is just a well-established, familiar name across different communities. That history definitely helps its popularity.
Makes sense. We also found Amanaki.
Polynesian meaning hope.
Okay, Polynesian, listed as unisex, but noted as more common for boys.
Yeah.
And it's outside the top 1,000. It really shows how gender associations for names could just vary so much depending on the culture.
It really does. What's seen as typically masculine or feminine in one place can be totally different somewhere else. Amanaki is a great reminder of that diversity in naming traditions and how culture shapes our view of gendered names.
Okay, another Hebrew name now, Ezra, meaning help or helper.
Ah, Ezra. Very popular.
Hugely popular, top 50. And it's noted as being symbolic of hope. It's interesting how help gets tied so closely to hope.
Well, think about it in tough times when things are uncertain.
Yeah.
Getting help, having support, that can be the very thing that allows hope to survive or even flourish. Just knowing help is there can reignite that sense of possibility, that belief things can get better.
That's a powerful connection.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And Ezra just has a strong sound, positive vibes. You can see why it's so popular.
Okay, shifting gears a bit. Modern English names that evoke hope more indirectly. First, Neve.
Ah, yes. Heaven backwards.
Exactly. A clear symbol of hope. And this one's way up there. Top 100. The creativity is striking. What do you think drives the popularity of a name constructed like that?
So uniquely. It's a fascinating phenomenon, isn't it? These reversed names like Nava. I think it speaks to a desire for uniqueness, maybe, and perhaps a subtle way of reclaiming or reinterpreting traditional spiritual ideas for a modern context. That clear link to heaven resonates with that ultimate sense of hope and peace. And the unusual spelling gives it a modern, distinctive feel that clearly appeals to a lot of parents.
And then there's serenity, meaning peace, calm. Also top 100, also associated with hope.
Yeah, that connection makes perfect sense too.
It does, right. That feeling of inner peace, it really feels like fertile ground for hope to actually grow.
Absolutely. Serenity suggests that state of, inner quiet where anxieties lessen and a more optimistic view can take hold. It's almost an antidote to the chaos of modern life, embodying a desired state that's deeply linked with being hopeful.
Okay, rounding out our list, we have Toivo, a Finnish boy's name meaning hope,
Toy.
and Umit, or Umit, a Turkish boy's name, also meaning hope. Both are outside the top 1,000. It shows how this core concept gets expressed in maybe less commonly encountered European languages here. It really just highlights how universal this feeling is, doesn't it?
It truly does. Names like Toivo and Umit, they remind us that wanting hope, expressing hope, it's just fundamental to being human. It happens through all these diverse languages and cultures all over the world, even if those languages aren't always highly represented in, say, U.S. naming data.
So yeah, looking back at these 20 names, it's just incredible. The sheer variety of origin, Sanskrit, French, Polynesian, Hebrew, all circling this one core idea, hope. And the range in popularity is just as fascinating. You've got the direct translations that maybe aren't as common, and then these more indirect names or culturally specific ones that really resonate with people. What are some of your main takeaways from this list?
Well, what really stands out to me is just how multifaceted hope itself is. You see different cultures expressing it differently, sometimes directly, sometimes through related ideas like faith or gifts or peace.
Right.
And the varying popularity, it really shows how naming trends are shaped by this complex mix, right? Linguistic sounds, cultural connections, what's fashionable right now, it's dynamic. It reflects our values, our aspirations, which are always kind of evolving.
Absolutely. So as we wrap up this deep dive into names meaning hope, it's really clear this is so much more than just, a list of words.
Definitely.
It's a reflection of something fundamentally human, a desire that echoes across cultures, across time.
Which leads to, I think, a really interesting question for everyone listening. When you consider this rich tapestry, all these origins, the different shades of meaning tied to hope in these names, what does that enduring human desire for hope actually tell us about ourselves? About what we envision for the future? Which of these names, maybe, or their cultural origins, resonates most with you? And why? What might that suggest about your own connection to hope? It's definitely something powerful to think about.